Good morning, Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is $11,135. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're here to talk about stuff I've been reading, the February 2018 edition of my monthly book column, where I tell you the books I bought, the books I read, and what I thought about them. So let's just get right into it. I could just read the column out loud, but instead I'm going to do a little improvising here. And the main reason I'm doing this way this week is that I wanted to show you the books that I bought. I thought it'd be fun. Some of them are rather large, and by rather large, I mean the largest books in existence, some of the largest books you'll ever see. So I wanted to start off, as usual, by giving a shout out to this cool book cover that I bought. It's mainly for Bibles, but you can use them for real books. And what I like is they've got a zipper pouch in the front, and you can put your little flags in there. I like to flag my books. That way they're not destroyed. But at the same time, if I want to show you a good quote, I have no problem pulling it out because all my good quotes are flagged. So starting with the books I bought Norman Mailer, The Spooky Art, Thoughts on Writing. I love books about writing. They always tell me what I already know. Writing is really hard. The people that are good at writing are good at it because they do a lot of it. What Norman Mailer talked about, I'm only just barely started, but what he talked about was the importance of writing when he was young. He wrote over 500,000 words on his own, making some early bad novels and early bad essays, and this early writing led him to be an incredible professional when he popped out of the box with The Sound and the Fury, or The Naked and the Dead. I don't know, something like that. I haven't really read Norman Mailer, but I'm interested in his thoughts on writing. It's been sitting around for a while, but I got this book, The Best of Italy. My goal for 2018 is to go to Italy. I'll be right there. That's me. I haven't read very much of it. I really like Rick Steves. I like the way he lays out his books. They have a lot of tabs and flags. Make it easy. If you just want to read a section about Florence, good book for that. Or if you want to know about Rome, I hope to read it cover to cover before I go to Italy, but I'm not promising that. I might just go anyway. I bought a big vegan cookbook called Big Vegan. I'm not a vegan. I like meat, but I am a lactose intolerant person, so I can't eat dairy. This blocks me out of a lot of desserts. My hope with this book is that I'll find a couple good dessert recipes and cook them. I'm not going to read this cover to cover. So it's never going to show up on the red side of this book, but I bought it anyway. I got the oral history of The Daily Show. I've had my eye on this for a long time. You can see Jon Stewart's Bic pen right there on the back. $5. Friends of the Library Booksellers. Bit of a thick one. I do like oral histories, though, just reading the interviews. It's a very direct form of learning and a direct form of history, obviously a primary source of history. I'm going to put it with my MTV oral history, which I've also started but not read. This is the sad part where I buy too many books. I bought the Exegesis of Philip K. Dick, still in a bag. I don't like books in a bag, but what am I going to do? Open it and show you words? Philip K. Dick had a vision of Valis off of this necklace that a woman was wearing when she delivered him medicine. The necklace reflected light. The necklace was a pair of twisted snakes, an early Christian symbol. And from that moment on, he was allegedly in contact with a satellite. The satellite showed him what the world was really like, that we've been moving backwards in time since Rome, that nothing's been real since Rome, and that only he was connected to the satellite of truth, this Valis, and that everyone used to be connected to this, and that we're in a dark time where no one is connected to this satellite. Interesting stuff. Even Philip K. Dick says it might not be real. He, of all people, doesn't believe in anything, and not himself either. So it's interesting to see him address it and to talk about some religious issues. I've read it on Kindle. Oh, you want me to unbag it? Okay, just for you guys. And because I hate bagged books. Bagging books, I don't know, I watched a documentary about booksellers on the street, and they're like, you put that book in a bag, you charge $10 more for it. So, but here it is, the Exegesis of Philip K. Dick. As you can see, no pictures here. It's not an art book. Interesting handwritten front cover. Hadn't seen that before. My Kindle edition didn't have that, but you can see you can see some of Philip K. Dick's book titles here: Three Stigmata, Valis, others, and they're all tied into Valis, and that's what it really feels like reading P.K. Dick. There's before Valis and after Valis. He's completely different. All of his books after Valis are vague retellings of the Valis story. Obviously, the Valis trilogy, very Valis. Radio Free Albermuth, nice condensed version of the Valis story. Other ones have flashes of it, but that's all he writes about for the rest of his life. It was a major event in Philip K. Dick 2374. Interesting. So I also bought, this is getting heavier and heavier. This is Bob Dylan, All the Songs. I saw this for $15, or well, I saw it for $30 at a bookstore, and it was on sale, and then I found it online for $15. This isn't just like a song book with lyrics. These are descriptions of the songs. So it tells you why he wrote it, if it was a cover of something else, about the albums, about the thing. Incredible, informative, really nicely laid out. You can see here just the pictures, the posters. I like the little post-it notes. These are really, it's a good book. This is, again, probably not reading cover to cover. This is more of a, like, think about a Dylan song, maybe think about an album. What I like to do when I read these is I like to listen to all the songs while I read about the songs. Sometimes I have to listen to the song 2 or 3 times to get through the section or the column or whatever I'm reading. But good stuff. Bob Dylan, big, heavy book. They're probably not going to stack well, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, get ready. This is not the biggest book of all time. This is a tribute to the biggest book of all time. The biggest book of all time, a tribute to Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time, the GOAT book, costs $1,600. I don't have $1,600 to spend on a book. This book cost $150, but I only paid $40 because I got it used. $40 is a lot to spend on a book, but I want to warn you, this is 17.4 pounds. The Bob Dylan book, 6 pounds. 17.4. I'm straining here. I'm not a strong man. 17.4. Muhammad Ali in plastic wrap, well shipped, well packed, slightly used, but I imagine they loved it as much as I'll love it. That's the sound of me tearing open the plastic wrap and hopefully not tearing off the dust cover. It's always a chore when you do something live because you're not focused on it. You have a chance of messing it up. But here it is, Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time, a tribute to the largest book ever made. And we're going to go off the camera stand here and go direct to the book. This is why it's such a big book. This is why maybe it's worth $40. Let's see, a little higher. There we go. And wow. I mean, just you guys can see what I'm seeing, like, and just the expressions, the quality of these photos. There's articles in here about Ali, but flipping through it now for the first time, I mean, it's just impressive, the quality and the size of these photographs. He really was a great boxer, a great political figure, fascinating story. Just can't. And then all the Howard Cosell tie-ins. I read a book about Cosell and Ali. It was very good. I imagine it was just called Cosell and Ali, but I don't recall. But it was wonderful about their friendship. And you can see him with his trainer. Truly an amazing book. I mean, just stuff like this. Like, this is just ridiculous. Sorry, I'm shaking. Yeah, look at that. That's a beautiful, beautiful photo. Interesting man, interesting time. World's largest book. All right, so that's what I bought last month, and this is what I managed to read this month. I read Net of Being. Big Alex Gray fan. Got to see him paint live at Burning Man. It was very cool. Had one of his paintings with a Buddha on my wall for years. I have a large print of it. Here's a nice one with a hummingbird. Not sure you can see, but obviously Alex Gray, big about skeletal structure, lines, grids, geometric art, but not just of geometry, but geometric art of people and things, thoughts, the world. He has a really positive message. He talks about the connections between things. He talks about how he became an artist and how his art expanded. And he talks about his incredible partnership with his wife, Allison Gray. They really work together on all of their things, and I'm just impressed by them. They seem fantastic. Big book needs a big glass of water. Also this month, and yeah, the Alex Gray book, very readable, lots of big pictures. It's an art book. Art books I don't usually read until I started this column. Then I read them for completeness. In San Francisco, I read them because I had no other books. I had like 5-10 art books I bought from the galleries. They're good. I mean, sometimes they're hard to read. One of them was just a summary of the artist's life, next page, summary of the artist's life, next page, summary, and it was different artists. So you're just reading all these biological or geographical details, and you're like, what am I learning here? But some of them, like this one that was just about Alex Gray's art, was really good because you do get the behind the scenes look at what he's thinking about, what he's working on, how he built his art, what he started out on. He started out with a strange project where he'd shaved half of his head and half of his face. So he's this strange half person. And he would go on the subway and he'd go to class and he'd do all his normal things as this strange half-shaved person. It was a very interesting art project for him to start with. The other book I read this month, Billy Joel. Don't know if you guys want to be mean to Billy Joel because he's kind of cheesy and corny sometimes, but I'm a big Billy Joel fan. I've always been. It was great to read about him growing up in Long Island without a television, which forced him to focus on his music. Of course, he had the ups and downs with the women and the incredible bad fortune that both his wife and his wife's brother became his manager at one point. And it's very sad. There's court cases and all these things, but allegedly they robbed him blind. Incredibly successful artist, didn't really get to experience the success, had to constantly tour to try to make up for the money that they took from him. Very sad, but great to hear about the songs and the albums and how they built. Surprising to me, I mainly got in, I mean, I knew his songs on the radio and I knew him on the Alvin and the Chipmunks show, but I really got into Billy Joel towards the last couple albums. And it was such a surprise and such a shock that he stopped making pop music just as he was really, I mean, he'd been popular for a long time, but Stormfront, River of Dreams, he was breaking through. He was becoming mainstream popular, and I would say beloved. And he still was beloved as he toured a few more times. I got to see him at the face-to-face concert with Elton John. And he continued touring. He did some Shea Stadium shows, did some New York Yankee Stadium shows. And he was beloved, but there wasn't the new albums. He could have released new albums and really basked in that beloved glow, but that wasn't what he wanted at that time. He was done with pop music. The next book I read this month is Discipline Equals Freedom, Field Manual by Jocko Willink. Really great book, great presentation. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There's only one way. So get after it. And this was a really cool book. I found it in the store. I bought it because I like the style. If you can see here, it's all written in this OCR military kind of font, black and white, very plain, not a lot of words. But again, this is a true, like a self-help book. You could read this multiple times. It's very short, word-wise. There's some workouts in the back. It goes from beginner to advanced. Oh boy, the advanced workouts are really impressive, what these guys can do. Amazing. But I saw this guy, Joe Rogan, a couple of times. Check out his Joe Rogan interviews. Very positive, Navy SEAL, disciplined. But what he really talks about, discipline equals freedom. People think discipline's a negative word or something that comes to you from the outside, a drill sergeant bringing military discipline on you. But actually, as Jocko writes, discipline comes from the inside. It's self-discipline that is the start of everything. Self-discipline helps you read books, helps you do push-ups, helps you do anything that you want to do to get better. And it's a good book for that. Finally, this month, I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Not a very good reflective cover there. As you can see, put a lot of flags in this one. That means he had a lot of good ideas that I enjoyed. He has a really interesting 12 rules. Some of them are kind of jokey, but he uses them as a jumping off point for a long and detailed discussion about how to improve your life and about how to deal with difficult situations. I think it's not the easiest self-help book to read. I'm not sure how many people are going to get through it. He does include in every chapter a very detailed Bible example, but he doesn't come off as preachy. I don't think that I mean, he's a religious man, certainly, but he's not just blind religion. He's talking about the philosophies behind religion. For example, this isn't one that he uses, but in the Jewish holy book of the Torah, they advise against eating pig's flesh. At the time, this was a health issue where the pig was not properly cleaned. So to warn people against it, you could get mad, you could disagree with me, that's fine, but they kind of created a religious rule that was really a societal and a health rule. And in that way, religion was passing down valuable knowledge to people. And I think that Jordan goes back to the roots of religion, and he looks for those things that were valuable then that would still be valuable now, and he communicates them in not a non-religious way, but not in a way that would offend non-religious people. So I enjoyed that aspects of the book. Everybody's reading Jordan. I don't know, the people that say, oh, I'm a lib reading Jordan Peterson. Well, again, it's about the ideas, and it's also Jordan Peterson. He talks about the problems he's having with modern liberals, and certainly people have talked about the gender pronouns issue. Talked about it. It's not an issue anymore. They talk about it so much, but he also talks about classical liberals, people that believe in ideas and truth and books and freedom. And I'm more of a classical liberal rather than one of these new liberals with the gender pronouns. And I think Peterson does allow some space for that in his writing and in his reading. So I think that's about it for books that I read this month. I could read the column to you. What do you think? I'll try to pull that up. Also had some interesting things going on. I had a poll this week on the MadBitcoins Twitter. Is reading hard work? Does it matter if it's fiction or nonfiction? Does it matter if you read lightly or in depth? Does it need a deadline or a time schedule to become work, or is it always work? Vote and discuss below. And like I say in the example, because of my monthly book column, I forced myself to finish 3 books in the last 2 days, some of them reading a full 2/3 of the book. Was this work? And people responded with different ideas and different opinions. A lot of people can only see reading as fun. They think of maybe you're going to read a detective novel, or you're going to read a Stephen King book or something with a really nice plot that moves well. I agree that's fun. But there's also a second part of reading when you're reading a history book, maybe even a difficult to read or older history book, when you're reading philosophy, where it really is kind of like work, and you really do have to muscle through to get to the next chapter. And I employ a variety of techniques like anyone else to keep myself focused on task. Things like having a glass of water after each chapter, or checking my Twitter feed after each chapter, but not during. Things like this can help you stay motivated. I also like to sometimes know what page the next chapter is on, so I know how many flips I have to get through to get there. I like to read the picture sections. Picture sections always advance you about 10-15 pages with not a lot of reading. So things like this can help you stay focused and keep reading. When I was getting my history degree in college, I used to read about 8 hours a day. I would just, sit on the bed, lay on the bed, sit in the chair, lay on the bed, move around. I would also change books every half hour or hour, so I would stay interested in the topic. But you can pretty much read as much as you want, as long as you want. Maybe people don't do that. Maybe they don't read as much as I do, but that's what I do. When it's time to read, it's time to read. But I would suggest reading daily, reading a small amount before bed. That's a good way to go. So you don't have to read it all at the end for a deadline, but if you're reading for school or for law school or for a history degree or for class, you're going to find deadlines are a part of reading, and reading can become work. But it was interesting to hear your thoughts about it and to discuss it on the MadBitcoins Twitter. We're going to go ahead and go back through the column, although, again, a lot of this I've just said, but maybe it's fun now that you've seen the books. So here it is. Stuff I've been reading, February 2018. Thanks to Steemit for hosting my blog, and throwing down, maybe 10, 15 bucks per article. I like that. It's really cool. I think it's mainly from one person's vote, but shout out to my friend Mark. I think he has a lot of steam. But the books I bought this month: 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson; The Exegesis of Philip K. Dick, by Philip K. Dick; Greatest of All Time, a tribute to Muhammad Ali; Thing Explainer, Complicated Stuff in Simple Words, Randall Munroe, author of the XKCD comic strip on the internet here; Bob Dylan, All the Songs, the Story Behind Every Track, Philip Margotin; Big Vegan, Robin Asbell; The Daily Show and Oral History, Chris Smith; The Spooky Art, Thoughts on Writing, Norman Mailer; Books Read, Net of Being, Alex Gray; Billy Joel, by Fred Schurz; Discipline Equals Freedom, by Jocko Willink; 12 Rules for Life, by Jordan Peterson. Welcome back to Stuff I've Been Reading, the world's most exciting monthly book column. First, some housekeeping. I bought some very big books this month. Maybe it was a competition. Maybe I secretly knew about World Book Day and forgot. Or maybe I just like buying books. The first heavyweight I purchased was Philip K. Dick's Exegesis. It's a long, drawn-out story, but PKD had some visions. Maybe they were real. Either way, he sat down and wrote automatically like a machine for thousands of pages about the experience, exploring it from all sides. The more you read it, the more you want it to be true. Although no one else has ever heard from Valis, what PKD called a vast, active, living intelligence system, again. Next, I bought the Bob Dylan Song Explainer. Saw it in a discount bookstore for $30, but then found it online for $15. It probably cost them more than that to print the book. Truly comprehensive and weighing 5.9 pounds, it's a very impressive book. On any other day, that book would truly take the cake, but not today. I've had my eye on this book for a very long time. Even though it's not the greatest book of all time, there's an even larger version that costs more than $1,600. I did not get that version. This book is merely a tribute to that even larger version. Still, this tribute weighs around 17.4 pounds and usually costs around $140. I got it for $40 shipped. I don't know how much it cost them to send it here, but it was a lot. Unlike books shipped directly by Amazon, the seller actually packed the book correctly, even protecting it in plastic wrap before setting it in a box filled with paper to completely stop the book from moving, to avoid damage. This is not the way Amazon shipped Net of Being to me, a beautiful Alex Gray book filled with artwork and damaged by those fools 3 different times before I received a decent copy. Even then, it was only because they were lucky and it wasn't damaged. Each time the book was put in a box too large for it, with a single piece of bubble wrap. The books banged around the box, damaging their corners, with one even bending some of the pages. For a company that used to do nothing but ship me books, Amazon is really losing its edge. I also purchased a very large vegan cookbook because I hope to find some non-dairy dessert recipes. So far, I mainly eat graham crackers. Picked up the Daily Show book and Mailer on Writing for cheap at used bookstores in SF. Thing Explainer is also quite large, but thin. I threw it in my cart when I was making another large purchase at Amazon. Anytime I buy a TV or a camera, I always like to throw some books in as well. Books may seem expensive when bought individually, but when priced against a TV or a camera, who cares? But enough about the books that I bought and didn't read. Let's talk about the books I did read. It's time to start the spree. Net of Being. I'd long admired this book on Amazon, but had a hard time pulling the trigger because of the cost. In the end, it was well worth it, not just for the large, full-color reproductions of Gray's incredible mystical art, but for the stories he told and the way he talked about his art and what it means. Even though it's an art book, I read it cover to cover, learning more about the young Alex Gray and his wonderful partnership with his wife, Allison. Reading his words helped me think more not only about his art, but about all art. I was fortunate enough to visit Alex Camp at Burning Man and see him paint live. I was most impressed by his tub after tub of paint supplies. I've had his Buddha painting on my wall for years, but this book really inspired me to visit his gallery in upstate New York. It sounds like quite a hike, but it's definitely on my list of things to check out. Billy Joel. Always been a fan of his music. Pretty sure I was introduced to it without my knowledge through its inclusion in the Alvin and the Chipmunks cartoon. But regardless of where it comes from, for me, Billy has always been there. I was fortunate enough to see him in concert once during his face-to-face shows with Elton John. It was a magical experience. Reading about Joel's troubles with women, troubles with money, and how he grew up in a home without television only made me like him more as he continues to make music and overcome these obstacles. Personally, I'm still sad that he stopped making pop songs after River of Dreams, especially as he was becoming rediscovered by all those who had dismissed him early on and was really starting to have mainstream success. I was surprised to learn of the Joel family history, which included many factories and a large business stolen from them by Nazi Germany. Lucky to escape with their lives, Billy Joel's life could have been very different as World War II raged on. America was once a truly great place for immigrants, where anyone, even Billy Joel, could do what he wanted to do and achieve towering success. I hope it will be again. Discipline equals freedom. I bought this book for a variety of reasons. I liked the title, the simple black and white style of the book, and I thought I'd heard the guy talk on the Joe Rogan show. Also, it was on sale. The book, which is just as strong as its title, is more than a self-help book. It's a self-discipline book. As Jocko explains, it really does all start with you. You are the one that can make the decision not to eat the junk food, which he rightly calls poison. He also admits that there is poison all around us, and the other people are eating it. It doesn't matter if the donuts are free. They are poison. Jocko was a highly decorated Navy SEAL and doesn't take any shit. He sees your weakness as something that can and will be overcome. It's not a long book, but it is one I'd like to read again. The strength of Jocko's words really fly off the page, and as I continue to let them marinate in the background, I think I've really learned something, and I know that I can and will do better in the future. I recommend this book for anyone and everyone who's trying to get started and is struggling with motivation. Remember, action comes before motivation. It doesn't make sense, but it's true. I convinced myself to start this column by laying out the books that I read. Real simple tasks to get me started. Once I'd laid it out, the column started to take shape, so I became motivated to write it. Now it's almost done, so I'm motivated to finish it. As it says on the back cover, there is no shortcut. There is no hack. There's only one way. So get after it. 12 Rules for Life. Like most everyone I know, I'm inspired by the words of Jordan Peterson. He made such a strong showing on YouTube and the Joe Rogan show, standing up for logic against true madness. In this book, Peterson plots a course for self-improvement, but is more thoughtful than that, really talking about the larger issues behind things. With a mix of personal stories, stories from his patients, Simpsons references, and a fair amount of biblical stories, Peterson makes the case for self-improvement and offers reasonable, common-sense ways to improve, without coming off as preachy or holier than thou. While I don't know if this book will be accessible to most people, it is unlike most self-help books in its length and detail. I, for one, enjoyed spending some time with the professor. Having seen him on YouTube many times, I read the book in his voice, and it seemed more like spending time with a helpful old friend than a stuffy, unknown narrator. I hope this personal connection will help me internalize and truly learn from his lessons. While it may seem simple, one of the most important lessons he imparted was to tell the truth. Not in a mean way, but in an accurate and factual way. He relates a story where a patient in a mental hospital wanted to know why she couldn't line up with the psychology students. There were many ways to answer her question, most of which probably would have caused her pain or amplified the differences between the two groups. Peterson went to his default and told the lady the truth. They were psychology students there for training, so they had to line up together. She was initially disappointed, but because his answer was the truth, she didn't feel any pain and understood the situation. It may be a simple cliche worthy of a Billy Joel song, but honesty really is the best policy. Not brutal honesty designed to hurt, but factual honesty designed to explain the situation and lead to a better understanding. Simple lessons that I think we could all take to heart. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for your thoughtful book. I guess that's about it for this episode of The Stuff I've Been Reading, aka the Polysyllabic Spree, my monthly book column and continuous homage to Nick Hornby and his column of the same name. I'm still working on catching up for my 2017 backlog, even though I wrote a few long columns trying to catch up this month. I almost didn't read any books, but at the last moment I sat down and read the last 2/3 of Alex Gray, Billy Joel, and Jordan Peterson. It turns out I really can read when I need to, even though I'd probably be better off reading a little bit each day before bed, rather than all at once at the end of every month in order to meet some silly deadline that I've assigned myself. But that's how the book column works. You read more, to write more, to write more, to read more, or something like that. Until next time, this has been the Polysyllabic Spree. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.